all these headlines about food safety. This isn't just policy, it's personal. Behind every recall, every outbreak, and every regulation, there's someone whose life was permanently changed or lost. I know that because I am one of them.
Welcome to Confessions of a Food Safety A-Hole. I'm Gennette Zimmer.
And I'm Dr. Darin Detweiler, someone who's been speaking up for over 3.5 decades, even when it wasn't easy or popular.
This isn't your average food safety podcast. We're diving into the culture, the conflicts, and the human cost of getting it wrong.
Because when it comes to protecting every plate, it's not just policy and data, it's personal. And it's time we start talking about it like it is.
Oh man, this intro is so serious. We sound like newscasters.
I've been called worse.
Welcome back to Confessions of a Food Safety A-Hole. So what did you all think of the new opening? I did a little bit of edits because I was feeling like it was just a little too long. It was a little too heavy-handed. And so I just took and I edited it down a little bit. And I'm curious as to what you think. So you can reach out to us at any place or email me at pepnexusinfo@gmail.com and let me know what you think.
Well, it's not really a rebrand. It's just a little bit of a refresh.
It's a refresh, yes. I felt it was a little bit more lighthearted. Even though we're talking about a serious topic sometimes, I just felt like it was a little heavy-handed before and way too long. And I just thought everybody's sitting there for 2 minutes listening to the same thing over and over again every time they listen to a new episode.
Well, for the nostalgic out there, you can always go back and listen to our earlier episodes and go, that was the original opener.
Yes, exactly. It only took me 17 episodes to decide I really need to do something about this.
Well, you know what they say.
What do they say?
17th time's the charm.
Yes, it is. So today we're very excited because we have a guest.
Hi, I'm Rick Biros. I am the president of Food Safety Tech, a digital publishing platform, as well as the conference director of the Food Safety Consortium Conference and Expo.
But before that, what are your thoughts, Darin? What do you want to talk about?
I'm pretty confident you've heard of the concept of decision paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
That idea of there's too many things I can do, I don't know what to do, or there's too many options, I can't make a choice.
Yeah.
I feel like that right now. I have been engaged in so much media response work right now and consultation work and even speaking around. You know, for a while it was about cyclospora and then and about lettuce, and then it was about this, and it keeps changing. It's like every single day there's one more thing. Lately I've been talking about ice cubes, you know?
Yeah. Don't get ice on an airplane.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing. They were surprised. Wait, so you'll eat ice at home if you make it, but you won't eat ice on an airplane?
Yep.
I'm like, they're completely different scenarios.
Yeah.
You know, one has gone through my hands, one has gone through, I don't know, 100 people's hands and, you know, the industrialized machinery complex or whatever kind of a deal. But it's like every single day, it is this seemingly endless cycle of what food's going to be next on the list of things that are recalled. And so I decided that maybe we shouldn't talk about recalls this episode.
Okay.
And instead, let's go back into the conversation around storytelling and engage with a person who is an organizer for an event where there's a lot of storytelling.
Yeah. When you say going back in, just as a reminder to many of you who follow a bunch of these different food safety podcasts, Darin and I recently did an episode with Don't Eat Poop, really focusing on the storytelling aspect of the Food Safety Consortium. So I'll put a link to that particular episode if you're curious to listen to that. But otherwise, why don't we just roll it with the episode with Rick Biros?
That sounds great. So let's dig right in. And here is a longer than normal interview, but there was such great conversation that it's kind of, let's not spoil it. Let's kind of let it unfold as the conversation between the three of us played out.
I love it.
Hey, Rick, it's so great to have you on our podcast. We've known each other for so many years, and we have been involved in one way, shape, or form or another of the evolution of the Food Safety Consortium. I remember Schaumburg years and Parsippany, New Jersey, and now in Washington, D.C. For those who might be listening to this and kind of hearing about this for the first time, let's get this out of the way. What is the date and location of this year's event? And then let's talk about that.
Sure. This year we will be in the Washington, D.C. area across the Potomac in Northern Virginia. The dates are Wednesday, October 21st, going through Friday, the 23rd of October. And we start early in the morning on Wednesday and go to 12 noon on Friday, allowing people to either go home or play in Washington, D.C.
Nice.
Excellent. And one of the cool, I guess, elements of your event is essentially imagine the best parts of the key leadership officials in regulatory and industry, but in a smaller size. You're not lost amongst thousands of people and getting lost from going from room A to room B kind of a thing. And I'm not being critical or judging or being dismissive of those large events, but especially for some people, that's a little bit too much. And the ability to have some smaller, intimate opportunities to hear from key voices and to be engaged with some of these conversations is quite a differentiation from some of the other events.
Sure. Well, it's done by design. We look for leading voices in the industry, subject matter experts as well to build the platform and the program. But the design of how we have it laid out matches the size that we typically get for each conference. So we typically go between 300 and 400 delegates per year, and we kind of design it to be almost like this fishbowl effect, where we keep everyone close together. It's with the exhibitors, it's in the different breakout rooms. We have tabletops, not a big exhibit hall. So another word you used earlier was engagement. It gets everyone engaged, whether it's the exhibitors, the speakers, the delegates and attendees. Everyone eventually gets to know each other. And it almost, because of that design, it almost encourages a lot of networking, a lot of peer-to-peer conversations. And that's, some of the benefits that we hear back from our delegates over the years.
Nice.
Well, I have to admit, and if this is something that is that you're looking for as a listener, there are some stakeholders who we engage with that are my first conversations with them were at your event. And years later, we are still, in fact, we just spent some time yesterday with one of those people. And now I'm going to spend some more time with them with some other folks next week. But it really is one of those, you get out of it what you put into it. If you go to this looking for that intimate experience, engaging opportunity, you have to be kind of ready for and geared up for, I want to be engaged. I want to be a part of this. And, we have talked about this so many times. I've lost track of what number is this? Is this number?
This is number 15.
Number 15.
That's huge. That's a good milestone.
It's a big milestone. Kind of coordinates with FSMA.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So what inspired, because I'm assuming Food Safety Tech came first. How old is Food Safety Tech first?
A little over 15 years.
Okay. So after Food Safety Tech, and then you decided to start the consortium, what kind of inspired you to create another conference of this ilk?
Well, it kind of, the lineage goes back further because a very long time ago, very early in my career, I started the very first print magazine addressing food safety and quality called Food Quality. And I published that for 12 years. It was a print publication. So that's a tangible thing that people pick up and look at. Mm-hmm. The world changed. And we became more digitized. And we had also Food Quality Magazine, we ended up selling to John Wiley and Sons. I went to work for them for about 2.5 years, left to start out on my own again. And I wanted to build a digital publishing platform that didn't rely on print. Now that sounds like not a big deal in today's world, but 15, 16 years ago, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, things have evolved. But I recognize the need to still have something tangible. And in lieu of doing a print magazine, it made more sense to bring people together in some form of an event.
Right.
And that's kind of how the evolution of the conference came about, which was it's almost like a in-person extension of Food Safety Tech with digital publication. So the two kind of get leveraged between each other. So we have authors that I work with on Food Safety Tech that, they write some really good articles, and I'll invite them to participate in the Food Safety Consortium, and vice versa. When we have a really good speaker who submitted an abstract, I'll invite them to contribute an article later in the year on Food Safety Tech. So it evolved, basically.
I like that.
And I've been in a position of seeing this evolution over the years. And one thing I want to talk about with the evolution is you have kind of I don't want to say preliminary, but your existing agenda, your draft agenda. I don't know if it's at this point subject to some micro changes or whatever. You have some things on this year's events agenda that are quite a departure from some of the events you've had in the past.
That's correct. We've seen that, we were looking at the food safety and quality assurance market evolving as well. FSMA was a big driving factor early in the days of Food Safety Tech and the consortium. So it was about compliance with FSMA, compliance with these new regulations that came out. And also GFSI was coming on strong then as well. So you had all of these multiple compliance aspects of, audits basically, and things that food companies needed to comply with that was driving the educational needs of the industry. How do I be in compliance? How do I be in compliance with this? How do I be in compliance with that? Well, there's one real big piece of legislation left, which is FSMA 204 and traceability, and it is a big one. But, people kind of figured it out, the industry's figured it out. GFSI is not as big of a mystery as, the different schemes are not as big of a mystery as it used to be. They're evolving with new versions of them, but, people keep up with them. What has changed? What is different now? And that's technology. Technology is advancing at a very, very fast rate. We're seeing a plethora of new technology utilizing AI as an engine to help food companies with not just compliance, but other aspects of food safety and quality. So when I started looking at this technology trends and changes that the industry was going through, I started thinking about some of the things that we were talking about. And Darin, you were talking about this several years ago on food safety culture. So when we had these presentations about food safety culture, we were talking about these food safety and quality assurance managers and directors on how to have food safety become more important with the rest of the company. So it went downhill, right? The question is, how does it go uphill? How does food safety culture go from a food safety manager or director into the C-suite? And that question to me is about talking to the C-suite language, which is going to be about risk, and it's going to be a mitigating or minimizing risk, but also return on investment. How can we take the narrative of food safety from being a necessary evil? In other words, if you're doing a great job in food safety, nothing happens. That's good. What about if you're investing in food safety technology and training, and things do happen, but they're good? What if they're seeing faster reactions to corrective actions? What if they're seeing less downtime? What if they're seeing an improved productivity as a result of investing in food safety technology? And if those things can be measured and become tangible, then we have the ability as a food safety community to communicate upstream to the C-suite, where we're talking about, well, we invested X thousands of dollars, but in the course of 6 months, we saved so much. So there's an actual ROI that we can think of. And I think that narrative has to change in the industry. We don't know where FDA is going or USDA is going really with regulations or enforcement. I mean, they're always going to exist. Don't get me wrong. And there's changes with GFSI, and there's changes with the states and the inspections and so on and so forth. But the reality of it is that if we can really look at this industry and the folks in the industry can say, I can do better with investment, and I can prove why this was a good investment, then the net result will be improved profitability for the food companies along with improved food safety. That's my theory. And we've put a lot of that theory into the programming of this year's Food Safety Consortium. And when you look at a lot of the breakouts, you look at even some of the general sessions, there is a lot about technology. And what I asked in our call for abstracts was that, how does this equate to some form of a return on investment?
One thing I've noticed, and one thing that stuck out from our conversations and my involvement with Food Safety Consortium over the years has been that it's not technology in and of itself.
Sure.
We have so many food companies, and there are multiple layers of regulation and regulatory agencies, and there are, there's FSMA, there's so many different levels of regulatory oversight and regulations themselves and technology, but you still have scenarios where there are some companies that are that kind of exemplar, their leadership, their preventative, their proactive nature, their transparency and traceability, whereas you have some companies that don't. And some companies we keep hearing over and over again, some companies that clearly have not progressed as much as other companies. And in addition to talking about technology, you're also bringing in, probably more so than any other event I've seen of late, is an opportunity for the narrative, the firsthand experience, the primary story, the storytellers even themselves. That idea of beyond, here's the facts, here's the data, here's the updates, the opportunity for a variety of different stakeholders to share their insights and their stories with the audience. And I think it's not only commendable, but I think it's something to talk about here.
Well, I realized something just this week. It's outside of the whole food safety market, but we all learn differently. Some people can read a complex list of instructions and put together a piece of furniture or something like that, and other people look at it and go, "Oh,
yeah."
I tend to do things better with like muscle memory than trying to read directions. And so I'm better at not only physically doing things, but also talking and listening. And the idea of hearing things verbally, it adds so much more for me as things that I can expand upon or better understand or interpret, that we wanted to include that in the program this year. I mean, a lot of the sessions are still sort of the traditional didactic educational presentations with 20 to 30 PowerPoints in there for a 45-minute session. But other times there are, people really gravitate towards the panel discussions where there's minimal, if any, PowerPoints. So coming back to the idea of storytelling, people learn in different ways. And, when we look at how we consume media today, we have podcasts, we have the written word, the spoken word, the visual. I believe that by adding more of the discussions and conversations, that just adds value to a program that already has a little bit heavy on the technology and a lot of the details. So it's a sort of a welcomed type of session that a lot of people really enjoy and get a lot out of.
Yeah, I love the whole concept idea that is being talked about, and it seems like, as somebody who's just kind of on the periphery, that I do hear the conversation, something you brought up more, which is we oftentimes in these situations focus on the companies that are doing things to the negative or failing to do things. And I think that lifting up and talking about who's doing it right, who's actually responding quickly, who's actually making sure and investing the dollars, and because we don't talk about them, because we often talk about the problem, not necessarily the people who are already implementing the solution.
Mm-hmm. No,
Well,
right.
and imagine how powerful it is to have the opportunity to hear more about someone's journey. This is how we went from A to B instead of we went to B. Okay, but I want to know how. What were some obstacles along the way? What was that like? Because I'm trying to take on that journey and I want to know what it looks like. I want to know what it sounds like. I want to know what it feels like, because then I might know if I'm going in the right direction, kind of a thing.
Well, I
Right.
mean, you're absolutely right, especially with a lot of the changes in technology. There's a lot of companies that are beginning the process of the digital transformation. And how does that work? What obstacles are you running into? What, if you don't know what you don't know. And by hearing and being in a conference where people are sharing their experiences, it's, people say, if I got nothing else out of it, that was really helpful. So that's a big part of what the consortium is trying to share experiences, Darin, as you had said.
Well, and imagine too, if I'm an executive for a pretzel company, and all I ever do is go and hang around to other experts from pretzel companies. Yet all of a sudden, you're in an opportunity to hear from a dairy company or a ready-to-eat foods in a different, category, or even with cannabis officials, because I know that there's a big cannabis element with this event as well. That it may not be that the journeys are filed under the same category and in a library Dewey Decimal kind of a system. But so many times we have experienced, Gennette and I, that sometimes the big eye opener, the big aha moment comes from the least likely of sources.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in past conferences sessions, where they were talking about FDA inspections, and this is back several years ago. But the term swabathon came up, and I remember very vividly watching the interaction of the attendees going, well, how many swabs did they take in your plant? And they wouldn't rattle off a number, and then someone would then just chime in and go, oh, I thought I had it bad, but maybe it's not so bad, type of thing. Or
Right.
again, this kind of goes back to that, you don't know what you don't know until you start learning that, where you stand, and where, you can only assume that, well, if they came in and they took, 300 swabs, that sounds like a lot. Well, the next guy had, 2,000. And then all of a sudden you start feeling better, type of thing. But it's, again, the idea of the sharing of experiences.
Well, and also it sounds like you guys are putting a concerted effort into actually acknowledging these people. With, it looks like on the agenda there's a first annual Food Safety Tech Excellence Award.
Yes, yes. That's interesting because that kind of goes back to the days of the Food Quality magazine. So
Mm.
I ran that magazine. We had done something called the Food Quality Award, and we awarded a food company each year, and it was a self-nomination process that has done an excellent job on food safety, and we asked them to prove it. And
Mm.
when Wiley ceased publishing Food Quality magazine, they changed the name to Food Safety and Quality, and then they ceased publication of it. When they did that, they also ceased the Food Quality Award.
Mm.
And back in the day, we had done the award and we brought it to the Food Safety Summit, and there was a big award ceremony year after year after year. There was this void in the market about rewarding a food company, but then we took it, the concept a step further by looking at what food company is investing in food safety technology and what kind of positive business outcome are they getting from it. And it again, so you see the tie-in between the theme of the conference as well as even the award, that they're intermingled in terms of the themes behind it. So the Food Safety Tech Award is its first, but it's kind of the idea is that legacy of the original Food Quality Award. Things are a little bit different now, but we have this is technically the first one for Food Safety Tech Excellence. Next week, the middle of August, we are sending out the announcement about it and inviting food companies to self-nominate, fill out the form, and we then have our judges who are basically our advisors to review those. And it really becomes a very simple process of grading each submission based on certain criteria. And the criteria is weighed, and then basically, the company that gets the most points wins.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So and it really, when we did it years ago, it really caught a lot of attention, excitement. Companies were very proud. I remember calling on certain companies and then seeing the award in their lobby, in like a trophy case kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not an individual, it's more like the food safety and quality team.
Right.
And so we're excited to bring this back.
I love it. I love that whole idea of let's celebrate the people who are doing it right.
Absolutely.
A lot.
And so we're doing that as an award ceremony during lunch on the second day. And it's coupled with something else that I've been very proud of, is our involvement with the Women in Food Safety. And Melody's group there. For years, we've been helping the organization, providing meeting space for them. Then also, we've done networking breakfasts before. This year, we're in that same award ceremony. They will be introducing their first leadership award, which will be co-presented at the consortium with the Food Safety Tech Excellence Award. And we're also added something in that when individuals register for the consortium to attend, there's an option where they can contribute anywhere from $5 to $100 to Women in Food Safety during the registration process.
Oh, that's very cool. I love that.
Yeah. So a lot of things have evolved literally from last year to this year in the theme, in incorporating more with women in food safety, bringing back the Cannabis Quality Conference to be co-located with it. That's kind of interesting in itself because
I was going to ask you about how are you strategizing the way you're going to balance having those two groups, but being able to kind of cross over at the same time?
Well, it's interesting because on the aspect of quality and regulatory in cannabis, there's some interesting parallels to food safety. And a lot of cannabis companies have poached food safety professionals to come work for them.
Right.
And they bring, their analytical chemistry skills, their microbiology skills, their quality assurance skills on auditing or CGMPs or bringing HACCP into a cannabis facility. And what we're seeing, the cannabis quality is all about just quality assurance topics. So there is things like pesticide residues, proper auditing, and again, there's a bit of a crossover. And so we do see some attendees from the food side going over to cannabis and vice versa. And there's a couple of interesting other things that are evolving in the aspect of using hemp, which is cannabis, just a lower level of THC that can be infused in beverages. So now we have this hybrid between a food and a cannabis product. And there's some interesting regulations related to that, as well as and evolving ones, as well as just the quality assurance that goes into that. So they're both their individual conferences, but there's also some crossover, and that's how we manage it.
Nice. I can say on a personal level, I'm very excited for this particular conference because I'm actually I've been on the periphery of this for the last 12 years, watching Darin on stage, watching everybody who's so dedicated to doing this work and participating and coming to these conferences and stuff. And as the spouse of somebody who also runs our business and so is very involved, I kind of decided to throw my hat in the ring, as it were, and I'll be standing on stage with my vast talk on just the experience of, the partner of someone in food safety, which I'm very excited about. It'll be very cool.
I think you're going to bring a really interesting perspective, and we're really welcoming you to share that with the audience. The last conference that we did in April was the Food Safety Hazards Conference, and we had another different perspective on things where just by complete circumstance, I ran into a person in the elevator who was not there for a food safety conference, and she just looked at our badges and said, "There's a food safety conference here in St. Louis?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, that's interesting." And kind of a long story short, she told me, I said, why is this of interest to you? And she said, "Years ago, I used to volunteer for Stop Foodborne Illness."
Oh.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And we're coming down the elevator and doors open, we spill out into the hallway. And I said, "What'd you do for Stop?" And she said, "Well, my daughter died of food poisoning, specifically I don't remember the strain of E. coli, but it was not 0157H7. And off the top of my head, I don't remember the last several digits of it. But so she was, her daughter was a victim. And she shared with me her daughter's story. And this was an hour before I was going on stage in front of the conference. And I'm like, "Whoa,
that's pretty impactful."
That was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And then she texted me a letter she had sent to Congress asking them to finalize FSMA back in in 2007. And I kind of threw the script out, aside, and I read her letter to to our audience at the Food Safety Hazards Conference. And I started having problems, not crying. It was very emotional. It was hard for me. And then, and I'm looking down and just trying to read this and, trying to keep my composure. And then I look up and then I see there's a dry eye in the audience. And kind of, Gennette, this goes back to you and Darin in the sense that sharing personal aspects of your life as it relates to food safety is very relatable for everyone, especially in this audience, in this community. And I think that goes a long way. And both of you, should be commended for again being so transparent in what you both have gone through. And again, from your perspective, Gennette, of observing this. So, I'm really excited about hearing your perspective coming up in October.
I'm excited to hear my own perspective.
I just wing it.
Yeah, I'm not Darin. I can't wing it. I'll have it all prepared.
Well, it was after one of the Food Safety Consortium events that I spoke at. I believe it was when I was on stage with Bill and
Mhm.
Bill Marler and Mike Taylor, probably Anne Marie McNamara.
Mhm.
And, someone came up to me and was saying, like, I wish you told more, about the behind the scenes, more day in the life
Mhm.
uh, kind of stories. Um, because, there's people that know the story about Riley. But there's also some people that just like, how do you stay as an advocate? There's awareness, right? We build awareness and we've clearly built allies. But some people are always like, how do you stay an advocate and even an activist, if you will? Some people can't imagine doing it once, let alone doing it over and over and over again, and being relevant and evolving. And so part of why we created Confessions of a Food Safety A-hole was that kind of, well, there's what gets in print, there's what gets quoted, there's what ends up on stage, what gets into a program. But there's still more of the behind the scenes story. There's more story behind the story that isn't necessarily as polished, that people have been asking more and more to hear about. And I think it is because they relate to that. They relate to some of the stories where, oh, well, you and Gennette were in a restaurant and you encountered that. I encountered that with my wife, but we don't talk about anything like that. So to hear, people telling us, to hear the two of us talking about that, it I think it's part of the culture. If we can't
Yeah.
talk about our real life experiences, take off our professional hat and say, but we're still people, then do we really have a culture?
Mm.
Well, I think that's what makes this industry unique, in that when you really look at a lot of the food safety and quality assurance professionals, they're very passionate. They're very, very
Yes.
passionate about what they do. They take it seriously. It isn't just, punching the clock and then punching it back out again and leaving the job, back in the office and just going home and forgetting about it. I think people really are very, very involved and have a lot of, I don't know if it's the right word or not, but like a personal equity into this industry that you know generally speaking, we all kind of know somebody that's been affected,
Right.
and that's when they're affected, it's not in a positive way. So, again, that's what makes it interesting and makes it unique, and frankly, why we love doing it. It's still, you feel like you're making a difference.
Great. Rick, one thing that we do often on our show is we talk about those kind of moments where you're like, if I do this, do I do it or do I not do it? Would I be considered an a-hole if I did this? Do you have a story about when you faced should I say something or not? Am I going to be perceived as a food safety a-hole? And if I don't do it, am I also going to be perceived as an a-hole? Do you have a story? You don't have to name a company's name or a restaurant or a person, but do you have one of those moments to share where it's like, no, that was my food safety a-hole moment?
How much time do you have?
It's really more, how much time do you have?
Yeah, right. It's a long list. Both my wife and I, when we see something, we speak up. So
Nice.
whether it's on a personal level or on a professional level, we speak our minds. And unfortunately, I really can't think of one specific situation, but I
I know we
mean,
kind of put you on the spot there.
yeah, that's okay. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
And then when you
I know that's the frightening part.
right, and then or when you start meeting new people and they start asking you what you do, and then you start getting, well, tell me about what's going on with lettuce, like
Yes.
or what's going on, with a certain recall, and then you start getting into the weeds on it and nerding out on it, and or then there's a fine line between pointing out something to somebody and then recognizing that they're an adult and they can make their own decision. So the fine line is to try and provide education with still allowing those individuals, like in a social setting, to make their own decisions. Eating salad outside. Was there a kill step to that? Right.
Right.
Little things like that. I've had some bigger issues that I, don't really want to get into, where we did speak up, and sometimes it kind of bites you in the butt, but that's okay. That's kind of
Yeah, I mean that's really the premise behind Confessions of a Food Safety A-hole is, will they treat you by speaking up? Are they acknowledging what it is, or are they treating you like an a-hole for how dare you?
Well, I think I'd like to expand on that for just a minute, because what I've also noticed is, especially in an age bracket of between 25 and 35 to 40-year-olds, they don't take well from an older person telling them about something. They first would prefer to Google it. And, I'm like, come on, this is common sense. And that's where I become an a-hole, because I'm like, I remember with my grandson, and he came out of the bathroom, and we went in the bathroom, and I had him wash his hands, and he comes out, Daddy, Grandpa had me sing happy birthday to myself twice while I was washing my hands. And some guys were looking at me like, what's wrong with you, dude? And I'm
Right.
like, how you doing?
Yeah, that's how you know you've done it for long enough.
Right. So,
especially that's the perfect thing for a kid.
Yeah, exactly. And 3-year-old, it worked.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that idea of age groups, I was recently in a conversation where someone was talking about all this stuff with lettuce and cyclospora and all these outbreaks, and basically made the kind of off the cuff remark, oh, if these kids would just cook their foods properly, they wouldn't be having this problem. And I was like, hold on, we don't cook salads, we don't cook lettuce. It's we buy these kind of fresh cut produce, the prepackaged fresh cut ready to eat produce stuff, and no one's supposed to be cooking it. And that being said, I'm actually going to digress in the middle of a sentence here. Rick, I just saw something a week ago I hadn't seen in a long time at the grocery store. You go down the aisle and you see where there's all the bags of ready to eat, pre-washed, spring mix, all the different salads kind of stuff. Right next to it, I just saw a bag of bean sprouts, 100% natural, organically grown, blah, 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 blah. And small print at the bottom, it says, boil or stir fry before eating. So it's interesting that that's back on the shelves. It's interesting that on the small print, it says boil or stir fry before eating. But think about where it is. If you put a bag of sprouts
sure,
next to all the lettuce that you don't have to cook, you're going to assume that this is ready to eat, and I can just open it up and pull it out and pop it in my mouth. And it's a little bit more than we just need to cook our food better. Thus, it shouldn't be the sole responsibility of the consumer. There's a lot more that goes on. And yet again, sometimes when I point these things out to people, I'm like given that look or given that hand signal or whatever that indicates that I'm being the food safety a-hole.
Yep.
Long list of them.
Yeah, very long list.
And we're all going to be where in October?
We are going to be in the Washington, D.C. area, specifically Arlington, Virginia.
On October 21, 22, and 23. I welcome everyone to come join us in the annual gathering of Food Safety A-holes. as we share stories, learn from each other, and have an opportunity to engage with some of the biggest and brightest voices across the industry. And if you have not been to this, I highly recommend. It is a significant departure from some of the other huge events. And this is a great place, once again, to meet up with some other stakeholders that you might end up doing business with or partnering with or mentoring or being mentored by for years to come.
Yeah. What's the website for the conference?
It's foodsafetyconsortium.org.
Foodsafetyconsortium.org.
There's also a link right at the very top of foodsafetytech.com, and you'll see the same words, Food Safety Consortium, and it links directly to there. So
perfect. And we'll put it in the show notes.
Right. Whatever is easier to spell, either one will get you there.
Perfect.
People go to this, they'll find information about the venue and the agenda and things of that nature.
It's all comprehensive. The agenda, the speakers, our registration pricing, the hotel room block for discounted rooms, the travel information, fly into DCA. It's literally 2 miles away from the airport, and the hotel has a free shuttle. So it's really convenient. We're also adding some fun factors. We're working on some social events for Thursday night. One of the things we're hoping, and it's not confirmed yet, but we're hoping to do something called a monument tour at night, which is like a bus with like the top cut off, and you drive around DC and you see all the monuments and buildings all lit up. And
I love that.
And we're also looking at some restaurant tours, potentially a pub crawl. So we're in the process of doing that and trying to organize that for Thursday night.
Nice. I love that. All right. Well, Rick, thank you so much for joining us here on Confessions of a Food Safety A-Hole. I'm very excited for the end of October, and it should be a really great time.
Great. Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's good seeing you both, and look forward to seeing you in October.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Well, hey, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love talking to Rick. He is so generous about this whole conference. I mean, I've been not really attending for years, but because I've been accompanying you for years, they've always been really generous about letting me sort of come in and watch whenever you're speaking or anything like that. And, I've gotten to know them over the years. We've actually had dinner with them at their house, which was lovely. And Beth is an incredible cook.
They've been out here. We've met up in different states.
Yeah.
He is one of those guys where we've been to, a meeting, a dinner, an event with them in so many different states. We just were at dinner with them in Boston earlier this year.
That's right. With Smart Sense.
Yeah, that's a great segue, because before the event for Rick Biros, we're going to an event for Smart Sense.
Yep.
In Austin, Texas. Last year, the same event we went to was in Nashville.
Yes.
And I don't think I'll ever forget that one of the evenings we kind of gathered at the front of the event to go a few blocks away to where we were going to have a big dinner, social, live music event.
That's right. They put us in like 3 different groups.
And we had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And then out of a door comes 3 different Dolly Parton impersonators. One was in white, one was in pink, and one was in black, I think.
Yes. They kind of represented different phases of her life.
Yeah, but big hats, big hair, big other things. And
big personalities.
Big personalities. And they all had lightsabers, which was interesting.
Well, I think that was just to make it easier.
That was to make it easier to
follow.
see. And then we kind of hiked our way around the town in order to get to our honky-tonk bar for the evening.
Yep.
And, we're recording this not even 24 hours after hearing about the death of Dolly Parton. And this morning woke up to the news about the death of Tim Curry. And not that this is a show or even an episode about these things, but it just that idea that 3 different impersonators of Dolly Parton wasn't even enough to capture how big of a personality she is, and how
Yeah.
big she will be, and how well she will
Beloved,
be.
and she'll be remembered well.
She
for
will be
sure.
remembered well. She will be one of those icons that 100 years from now, people are like, man, I wish I knew Dolly Parton. Or I wish I was alive when Dolly Parton was alive.
Yeah.
And
we got to see her in concert.
we
kind
did.
of.
We got to sing her. Actually, what's funny is we knew kind of last minute we were going to see her and Duran, and I had joked about the idea
That's
of
right.
imagine Dolly Parton singing a duet with Simon Le Bon, and you were like, no, that's never going to happen. And what happened?
She sang a duet with
She
Simon Le
did. At the
Bon.
end of the night, they were singing together. Jolene.
the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. It was awesome. That was so
Wow.
fun. I was so glad I bought those tickets because now we definitely can say we've at least seen Dolly Parton live on stage.
Yeah, you know, we're very, very fortunate to have had that opportunity. And I think that when you look at the importance of food safety and what we all do, it's to make sure that not only ourselves, but the average American family has the opportunity to have their dreams come true as well.
Yeah, that's nice. Well, I honestly think we could probably end it right here.
Yeah. Well, until next time.
Thank you so much for listening to Confessions of a Food Safety A-Hole. We hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, thank you so much to all of our new and returning listeners. As the great Ted Lasso, yay, he's back, says, we appreciate you. We would like to give Rick Biros a huge thank you for participating in this podcast. If you wish to attend Food Safety Consortium, you can go to foodsafetyconsortium.org and click in the upper right where it says Register Now. In the notes of this episode, we will provide a link to the webpage. If you have questions or wish to give us feedback directly, please email us at pepnexusinfo@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Confessions of a Food Safety A-Hole is sponsored by Eagle Protect, the only glove company that third-party tests its gloves because, trust us, isn't a food safety strategy. Learn more at www.eagleprotect.com and safeguard what matters. Do you have anything else you wish to say, Darin?
To quote Dolly Parton,
Yep.
find out who you are and do it on purpose.
I love that.